Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Humanity Matters Show. I am your host, Dr. Philip Fletcher, as we gather once again Sundays at 8 p.m. to discuss faith and philosophy, leadership, and social issues. We want to engage with ideas on what it means to be a human being, free, to exist and flourish in this society. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday evening. September coming to the end of another month, headed into the holiday season. I love it. October, November, and December. Can you believe that we are almost through 2021, right? Headed into 2022. So excited for what is coming up during these holiday seasons. Hey, just a couple of introductory things. So as always, connect with me on Twitter at Phil Fletcher, over on Facebook, where you can watch this show live right now, Dr. Philip Fletcher, Dr. Philip Fletcher. I'd appreciate that. Or you can catch me on YouTube. Please subscribe. Find Philip Fletcher over there as well. Subscribe. I'm trying to hit that number of 150. That would be awesome. And then, hey, go over to my website. We just released our quarterly newsletter for this year. So if you go on the website, you'll see that box show up, and then you can put your name and address in there, and you'll get some cool news and all that kind of good stuff. And so that goes out to all of those who sign up on that list. Hey, thank you for a new Patreon supporter, Todd. And if you want to become a Patreon supporter, please go over to patreon.com, and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. That's like a cup of Think Coffee or Starbucks or Round Mountain or Zateo or Blue Sail or, I don't know, a Chick-fil-A sandwich. You know, $5, get access to some content that I'm just not going to talk about here on the Sunday shows, or write about some very specific things that I want to engage in. And so go over there. And also you'll get access to cool swag and a new t-shirt that's coming out. So I'll be excited to publicize that in the next few weeks. But all of that is made possible because I have individuals who support the Patreon page, as well as my podcast over on anchor.fm. And so also you can find the podcast if you miss any part of the show and you just like to listen to my voice instead of watch my face and all of my great inflections and tones and all that. If you just want to do podcasts, anywhere you get your podcast, you can find the Humanity Matters show. And so I appreciate your support over there as well. You can listen to the podcast as you cook, as you take a walk, as you work out, you know, as you're doing some office work. All right. And so greatly appreciate that. Hey, coming up tomorrow, Larry Sharp, a veteran entrepreneur and former libertarian candidate for the governor of New York. I'll be doing an interview with him, and that will be available that evening. And so be looking out for that. And coming up, speaking wise, next week, next Sunday and Monday, I'll be in Fort Smith, Arkansas, giving a seminar on organizational leadership. And then next week, I will be at Hendrix College giving a lecture on compassion in difficult times as part of their Still Center discussions. And then in 2 weeks, I will be at Bear Talks, UCA Downtown, the Class of Pain and the School of Leadership. The Class of Pain in the School of Leadership. And at some point, there'll be some audio or video of those available as well. But if you're able to, I don't know, swing by Hendrix or UCA downtown, I'd love to say hi to you, all that kind of good stuff. All right. Hey, my nonprofit, City of Hope Outreach, who's not a sponsor of this show or anything like that, but my nonprofit is having their Coho game night. And that's this coming next Saturday, October 2nd from 5 to 9 p.m. at First Presbyterian Church. Hey, go to our Facebook page, the City of Hope Outreach. You can find that event, Coho Game Night. You, your family, kid-friendly. We'll have games, food trucks, all that kind of good stuff, music, and be able to support a great organization here in the city of Conway, which seeks to provoke hope in individuals and families and communities over time for the glory of God. So be looking forward to seeing y'all faces. Hey, if you have an email or you want to get in the mailbag, and if your mailbag is used to drive one of my episodes, I'm going to send you some swag. And so if you have a question, send it to humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. We'll be getting to the comments, all right, as well. All right, and got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. 4 segments. We'll be talking about national news and immigration, what's going on with that. We'll talk about some Arkansas news, specifically what's going on in Conway. Apparently, there's some new developments coming, businesses coming, right? And then we'll get into some more stuffs. Interesting video that came out coming from ASU, that's Arizona State University. And then we are going to do a deep dive into the unvaccinated, their stories, and hearing from them. So, hey, if you are watching this, I would appreciate you sharing this and all that kind of good stuff. You can catch this live, or you can catch this on the replay. But nonetheless, we are going to get digging into our first segment. So if you've been paying attention, or you haven't been paying attention to what's been going down at the border, right? At the border, there were thousands of Haitian refugees who had developed a camp under a bridge in the state of Texas. And this began to get a lot of attention. Okay. Apparently, when a image was taken of some Border Patrol agents on horseback seeking to interdict, get in the way of individuals who were coming across the border. And in that moment, an image was taken, right? And what it looked like was one of the horse riders using their reins. It gave the appearance, right, of them whipping these Haitian persons who were seeking to come across into the United States. Now, not surprising at all. There were those who sought to take this as an opportunity not to talk about really the immigration situation related to the Latinos that were coming over, right? Also related to, in this context, the number of Afghans who are coming over as a result of that withdrawal that happened earlier regarding Afghanistan. But this drew attention. This one singular shot, all of a sudden, excuse me, the powers that be in Washington, D.C. and others, all of a sudden got on their pulpits and began to announce their moral outrage at the appearance of a particular image. if I will, have you seen that image that ever floats around on social media where um, there is this individual um, where it looks like from the left side of the image, it's a knife coming at another individual? Okay. But when you pan back out, the image shows that the image on the left is an individual running away, but the way his foot is and his shoe is, it looks like a knife, and the actual attacker is actually on the right side. And the image was seeking to communicate that the media wants you to see what it wants you to see. Okay. Now, outside of a video, which was video footage of what was happening with the Border Patrol agents in regards to these Haitian immigrants, okay, persons seeking to immigrate into the United States. We can get into arguments about, whether they were doing it legally or not, refugee status. But my focus is what the image was seeking, was being used to communicate, and then how some of the powers that be took that image, then sought to invoke languages of slavery, uh, plantation images, so on and so forth. Right. So it was interesting that when the news was reported, that it wasn't reported that it was reported as whippings and things like that, not that what the Border Patrol agents were using was their actual reins that they were using to, control said horse. Now, I've ridden a horse before. You got reins, there's different lengths and things like that. All right. It would require some understanding as to the equipment that is required on those horses in the context of that job that those Border Patrol agents are doing. Obviously, I think it's safe to assume that they did not just start using horses, but in previous administrations, horses were being used, and probably even more so because of the terrain in which those Border Patrol agents had to operate in. Okay. But to make the immediate leap, and there was no investigation that had been done yet, but to make the immediate leap on the basis of if you will, kind of like a screenshot of a video, right, at a particular time to make it look like this was like slavery back in the 1900s all over again. I think for individuals like a Maxine Waters, a Sharpton, for individuals like Jen Psaki, for individuals like the head of Homeland Security to make an assertion that this was like race based and race influence, and that those individuals were acting in a racist manner, I think was intellectually lazy. And once again, a demonstration of poor leadership. Because what we have to understand is what's been going on at the border has been going on for quite some time. It's been going on for quite some time. But the energy was thrown at this one image. And so then the question becomes, what are you going to hear next week? Will you hear about this story, or was this simply an opportunity for the powers that be to take an image and to use it for a particular reason? What is or was the motivation? And that's something for us that I think we should think about. All right. So those are my thoughts on immigration and specifically what happened to the Haitians. Does it suck? It does. In fact, they have moved them out from there now, and they are now in new facilities. Um, I believe now in Texas. Um, Obviously, those individuals, they're in a hard way right now. And it's also important to know that there has been Haitians that have been sent back. So here's the other question. Why is it that Haitians have been sent back, but other people, when they have come over, they were not sent back? And in fact, when it has been brought up, that approach of sending individuals back who come to the across the border, what is designated as illegally, right? That when mentioned to send those back, that is a racist approach. But to send Haitians back, that's not a racist approach. Why is that? Why is that? I think another thing we have to pay attention to is cycles, right? One of the things I've been paying attention to is that over the last few administrations, that the cycles have been there's an immigration issue, then there's an economic issue, then there's some foreign policy issue that happens, and then there's some racial issue, and then political season. Immigration, some economic issue, some foreign policy issue, some racial issue, then voting time. Something to pay attention to. I could be wrong, but it's something I noticed during the Obama administration, something I noticed during the Trump administration. And is it a pattern that is going to repeat itself during the Biden administration? All right. So this is hitting on some national news. Oh, the other national news is that, Congress is approving increasing the debt limit so that they can spend more money. Now, I'm just trying to figure out, how is it that I can't do the same thing? That in this case, why can't I print money so that I can print more money so that I can do more things in my house? The fact of the matter is that dollar becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. Yeah, it may feel good that I'm able to do more things, but if I'm just printing money, how good is that money? The next thing you got to ask yourself is, who's going to bear the responsibility of increasing the debt limit, not having money, right, to pay for those things, but yet we've got all of these different programs? Who's going to have to assume that responsibility? I think we need to take a pause and really think through, why is it necessary for our federal government to raise the debt ceiling so that they can execute more programs, so that by executing more programs, they bring more American citizens to be dependent on those programs? But eventually, at some point, now I sound like I'm a Republican or something. Jeez. At some point, the bill does come due. And I think for many of us, if you have kids, everybody's talking about National Daughter Day, and today is National Sunday, right? The question becomes this: at what point, you're a parent, you have children, does it become unreasonable for you to go into debt simply to make your child happy? One of the things I talk about is there's a difference between pursuing one's good and pursuing one's happiness. Pursuing one's happiness is short term. There's a quick fix, there's an elation. But just because one does or consumes or acquires something to make one happy does not necessarily mean it is for one's good. And I think what we need to demand of our local officials, our county officials, state officials, and federal officials is ask them, is this for the good of those that you represent? And if it's not for our good, then we have to find different ways. Because if it's not for our good and we continue just to do things simply to make ourselves happy, and a lot of those things that are make us happy are actually not good for us, eventually that happiness is going to subside and there's going to be a whole lot of pain. So my encouragement to you is, all right, pay attention again to what is happening at your city level, your county level, your state level, and your federal level. Pay attention. It's awesome that the Razorbacks are ranked number 8, but that ranking is not going to matter if everything comes crashing down financially. Again, the Razorbacks beating Rice, beating Texas, beating Texas A&M, those things make you happy. Those are not for the good of Arkansas. Do you understand? So it's imperative that we really pay attention to is what is happening, those things that are being decided on in these particular elected bodies. Is this for our good, or are they seeking just to give us things to make us happy and thereby distracted? Hey, thank you for joining me. This is Philip Fletcher with the Humanity Matters show. That was our first segment, just dealing with some national news, talking about immigration and talking about the debt ceiling and the spending that our Congress is doing. If you've got a comment or anything like that, hey, give me a comment. I would love to participate with you. If you've got a question, all right, you can always send it to humanitymatterspodcast@gmail.com. Soon have a new email. All right. So this is going to be rolling until the end of this week. So get your emails in, and then we'll be shifting to a new email address. Been doing some reshifting and reshaping, getting ready to roll into 2022. And so trying to get that stuff up and going. All right. So continuing on, segment 2, Arkansas news. So, hey, Conway. Hope y'all are doing well. I'm coming to you today. So it was reported in, let me get this up here, the Law Cabin. So I'm pulling this off from the cabin.net. That is the cabin.net. All right. There's so many ads on this joker. All right. Anyways. Okay. So this was put out by Jordan Woodson on September 25th, 2021. All right. And so Jordan Woodson is reporting this. The Conway City Council will discuss rezoning 55.16 acres located at the southeast corner of the intersection of East Dave Ward Drive, all right, and Thomas G. Wilson. All right. So if you're headed down Dave Ward, you go over the 40 past Sam's and all of that good stuff. That's what they're talking about. All right. Near Lewis Crossing. So now you're in the area where Denny's is. There's that other restaurant there that skips my mind right now. Across the street is Firestone and Sam's and all of that good stuff. Okay. So continuing on, they're going to seek a rezoning from A1 to C3 and A1 and C3 to a planned unit development at its regular meeting Tuesday, September 14th at 6:30 p.m. Now, I don't. This is interesting. Okay. There will not be a committee meeting beforehand. Holloway Engineering Survey and Civil Design of Maumelle requested the rezoning to allow, quote, for future construction of a large mixed-use entertainment development hosting retail sales, offices, restaurants, hotels, events, and entertainment centers, a central plaza, and multifamily residential use, close quote, according to the agenda documents. The development would be called the Molly District. Okay, this should be interesting. So included in the proposed Molly District is a 28,000 square foot event center and a 55,000 square foot entertainment and bowling center. Uh-oh, new bowling center's coming. Conway Family Bowl. Do you know that? All right. A 480 unit multifamily residential development and food truck court. Well, that'd be interesting. The Conway Planning Commission on September 20th. These dates are interesting because typically these things go to the Planning Commission first, then to the City Council. But it said that this is going to be decided on Tuesday, September 14th. But it says the Conway Planning Commission on September 20th unanimously approved the project going to the City Council with a recommendation for approval. Maybe this is all updated. All right. A little confusing. All right. And the council will also discuss other rezoning for areas on Donaghy Avenue, 5th Street, and along Bill Bell Lane and Stanley Russ Road. So there y'all go. Looks like maybe some shopping and entertainment and cool bowling type and living situation for individuals. I wonder if it's going to be as expensive as what's going on Central Landing. What's going on with Central Landing? Anybody know? Hit me up. I would like to know. Again, there's some expensive old apartments sitting over there, and it looks like a great opportunity to do some mudding in my Jeep over on Central Landing. But anyways, there that is. All right. So continuing on, that's the Conway news right there. And let's jump over to this. So there was a young man in ASU, Arizona State University. He was just chilling, minding his own business, right? And this is a video, all right, of this young man. I want to interact with this because it's very important, all right? So this young man was simply studying, minding his own business, and what it looked like was a student like commons type area, but apparently he was in the wrong place because of a host of issues. So we're going to play this and we're going to get some comments.
Police lives matter?
You have the same sticker.
We're just trying to do school.
What?
You guys have the same sticker the other.
But this is our space.
We've got a Police Lives Matter sticker and we're getting kicked out. Can't do school.
All right. So this video has two Caucasian young students who are sitting, studying. They're minding their own business. On one of the students' laptops is Police Lives Matter. All right. And his classmate sitting across from him pulls out his cell phone and he's recording the two young ladies' cell phones. Okay. The two young ladies who are recording this interaction and who are having this discussion with these two young gentlemen. Now, the two females, one is a young girl who is brown skin and black, if you will. And then another young girl, she looks to be Latino. So continuing on.
You just said we have to leave.
No, I said you're making this space uncomfortable. But you're white. Do you understand what a multicultural space? It means you're not being centered.
White's not a-
Okay, so she accuses the two students that they are not making the place safe. It's a safe place. And it's a multicultural center. And that because of them being white and their presence, they're not keeping it centered. They're students on a state university campus, right, in a building that more than likely their tuition is paying for, right? And they're told that they cannot be there because it's a multicultural space. And that because these two young men are white and their presence there is not making it safe, the presence of that sticker is not making it safe, the sticker that said Police Lives Matter, and also it's just not safe. Continuing on.
No, it's not a culture. It's white is not a culture. Say it again to the camera. You think whiteness is...
Okay, so the young man says whiteness is not a culture. So we can go back and forth on that. I believe it is. But anyways.
culture.
This is insane.
So anyways, this is the violence that ASU does, and this is the type of people that they protect. Okay, this white man thinks he can take up our space, and this is why we need a multicultural space.
So she makes the accusation that ASU is conducting violence because of the presence of these two students who pay tuition to go to ASU, that their presence is, based on her opinion, a perpetuation of violence by ASU, that their presence in the Multicultural Center is an act of violence.
Because they think they can get away with this shit.
I'm gonna sit here the whole time, and you can find somebody to take
That's cool. We will.
We're asking you to leave if you have any consideration for people of color and or marginalized.
So clearly don't.
that I can go.
Yeah, the whole rest of the campus, the second floor, the first floor, the whole MU, every single part of the campus centers you. This is the only space that you're not centered, and you're still trying to center yourself, which is peak white cis male bullshit.
You're not.
You are racist. Your sticker is racist because.
Okay, so she then makes the accusation because he's a cis white male, okay, that his very presence is if you will, a middle finger to the non-white students in that space. Now, again, this is ASU, so it's a state college, taxpayer funded, but then also tuition funded by the students. All right. She is making the claim that they have no right to be in that space. All right.
Police, that's a job. You can choose to be a police. I don't choose to be black. Okay.
I don't disagree there. People choose occupations. We don't choose our skin
These
color.
people kill people like me and like us, right? So you're promoting our murderers. So please just don't do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So why should that bother you?
Because do you understand that Police Lives Matter was in response to Black Lives Matter?
Okay, so a rhetorical device is made, executed, right? Distracting from the actual issue of the freedom of any student to study where they want to, regardless of their skin color or anything like that. She makes the claim that Police Lives Matter is made in response to Black Lives Matter. Obviously, all lives matter is made in response to Black Lives Matter. Okay, we go back and forth on that. Needless to say, all right, that's not the point. That's not the point of what's going on here. All right. Another student enters the fray who is actually, it looks like he's Asian, who comes to the defense of the student who is white. So that becomes even more interesting. Let's keep going. There's like 12 seconds left.
Fucking tuition as you.
Yep.
Hold on, but
Yeah, that's fine. And you have everywhere. You have.
I'm working 60 hours a week while going to school because my parents don't just give me money.
It doesn't.
Okay, it doesn't matter.
So the young student who was originally met with the charge of being a participant of violence because of his presence as a white male, all right, because he is not respecting the multicultural space, because by his presence and the other students' presence is not being centered, right? He finally gets up and says, you know what? Enough. All right. He gets up and says, like, hold on a second, that I work 60 hours a week. He's putting himself through school because his parents can't afford it, right? He makes the claim, all right, we just got to take his word for it. He's making the claim that, hey, I'm working and I'm studying to put myself through school. My tuition pays for this place. Who are you to tell me that I cannot be here on the basis of my particular skin color? So this is the situation that we have allowed, that we are allowing to persist, right? And now we have it in our colleges and universities, where we have this contest between different ethnic groups, right? We have also this pursuit of segregated spaces. The reality of this is that when you go to a college or a university, that is the opportunity for multiple perspectives, ideas, thoughts, economic situations, obviously ethnicities, political beliefs, so on and so forth, so that it was the hope that as these individuals interact with one another, critical thinking could happen. One would be able to look at a set of ideas, evaluate those ideas, and come up with his or her conclusion. But what is happening is, and I'm just going to call it out, that for those two young girls who approached those two men who were minding their own business, they were studying, minding their own business, right? That those two young girls were the actual aggressors. I will make the claim that in that very moment, those two young girls, those two non-white girls, were the actual expressors and practicers of racism. Let me say it again. In that very moment, those two young white male students who were minding their own business, studying, doing what they were supposed to do, and being on that university campus, they were aggressed against by those two non-white girls. And those two non-white girls were expressing the very racism that they think that they are fighting against. What we can also learn from that is that there's going to be more and more individuals who are going to have it up to here because of the false accusations, the straw man arguments that are created, the illogical leaps that people are making in order to, I don't know, make themselves feel better, find a sense of identity in some type of activist movement, to believe that they are on the side of justice when in fact they're not. And so you're going to have individuals who are going to be like, hey, you know what? You got to keep it moving. That young man was right. He's a student paying tuition, and I have a daughter in college, and I know her tuition goes towards that university. And in the same vein, in that video, that young man, his dollars, and that young lady, her dollars, both go to the same university for them to have access to all of those student facilities, regardless of whatever social breakdown that you want to break it down to. I have to say to my social justice brothers and sisters, you have to make better arguments. I'm going to say to my social justice brothers and sisters that want to advance, a particular idea regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, you got to make better arguments. It is a weak argument, impotent argument to approach somebody and make an accusation about that individual on the basis of particular characteristics, when that is the very thing that you are saying is what has created the injustice, and that fuels your own advocacy. And so what you have done is that you've taken the practices of a few and the beliefs of a few, and now you've brought it into yourself, and now you are reflecting it back onto those particular individuals, many who are just minding their own freaking business and just trying to, I don't know, pass their classes and do what it is that they need to do to meet their particular goals in life. So it's unfortunate that happened. But nonetheless, it's something that happened, and hopefully things will get better. So finally, I want to spend the remaining part of my time dealing with the unvaccinated. All right. And I am really going to spend my time here. And again, hey, share this, tag somebody that wants to listen to this, so on and so forth. And we're going to keep it rocking. So, the unvaccinated. So, for the last year, we've heard stories. We've heard stories about individuals who have been impacted by COVID. We've heard stories from family members. We've heard stories from healthcare officials, right? All types of anecdotes regarding the impact of COVID, the impact of seeing someone die, the impact of seeing someone on a ventilator, the joys of recovering, so on and so forth. Those stories have been told. Last year, we heard the stories. They even made it on Time magazine about healthcare workers, doctors, and nurses, those individuals using war language that they were on the front lines of this war against COVID. Stories, again, stories by these individuals about the impact of COVID. The vaccine comes out January 2020. Last year was about masks. This year, it's about a vaccine. So you're hearing stories about individuals who have taken the vaccine. You hear stories about the impact of COVID on ICUs, emergency rooms, so on and so forth, and the exhortation by medical professionals, drug dealers. I'm looking at you, Arkansas, in that one video about, hey, this is why you should get the vaccine so that we can return to normal. So these stories are going out, and in doing so, those who take the vaccine are being heralded as those who are loving their neighbor, quote unquote, those who are doing what is best for the public good. We are, quote unquote, in this together. Individuals are changing their social media profiles, typically on Facebook, to mark that they were vaccinated. I was went to get something to drink yesterday, and the cash register person had a button on them that said, "I got vaccinated." Right. So these stories are being told. Right. And the individuals and businesses who are choosing to participate in this particular medical procedure, their stories are being told, their stories are being lauded. They are on, if you will, the right side. They are doing the moral and ethical thing. They are the ones who have the opportunity to have their freedoms granted to them to go to restaurants, to go to gyms, to participate in entertainment type activities, so on and so forth. Their stories are being lauded. Now, one of the things that I value, that I have learned, is the importance of hearing multiple perspectives. That's something that I have sought to do in my own work. In my own work, I have sought to hear from those who like the Confederate flag and those who don't. I sought to hear from those who are for same-sex adoption, same-sex couples adopting, and those who are against it. I've been for hearing stories from those who are Democrat and Republican and libertarian and socialist and democratic socialist, right? Persons coming from a variety of backgrounds who are looking at a particular situation and have a perspective on it. And then from there, come to my own conclusions. So, one of the things I realized that I want to do is I want to give voice also to those individuals. Now, President Joe Biden, I'm about to use your words, the 80 some odd million who have not been vaccinated. I also want to give voice to those businesses, whether they have 2 employees or 101 employees, right? Who are choosing to say, hey, you know what? We are not going to mandate or tie as a condition of employment employees taking the vaccine. I think it is equally important. It is equally important not just to hear from those who, for whatever reason, chose to take the vaccine, but I think it's also important to hear from those who, for whatever reason, are choosing not to take the vaccine. Whether that's Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, and now we're talking about booster shots. Why do I think it's important? Because I thought it was intellectually lazy and it was irresponsible in terms of his leadership to put into one junk drawer, if you will, or into one box and look at 80 million people the same way. Because I don't look at the 150 odd million or more who chose to take the vaccine in the same way. Just like there are those who have taken the vaccine have had their individual reasons as to why they took the vaccine. There are amongst the unvaccinated individual reasons as to why they have not taken it, to include, those businesses who are not going to go along with that. This is the next thing I'm going to say. And this is in relationship to that young man from Arizona State. All right. I think it is important. Got to fix something here. All right. I think it is important for more individuals to stand up and be counted. Ladies and gentlemen, there are those who mock those who make the claim that to mandate something upon somebody is tyranny. There are people who mock that. And then my question becomes is this: at what point does one stand up against tyranny? What are the conditions that have to exist in a society for an individual or a group of individuals to say, you know what? You've gone too far. Because it can be demonstrated multiple times throughout history. And even in current situations, that many times the argument used for a government institution to get something done in a society is to say it's for the common good. It's for the public good. It is for your safety and security. And in doing so, those who get the benefits of the common good, the public good, the safety and security, what they may fail to realize is a slow erosion of their freedom. What do I mean? I have a friend who chose to announce that his particular institution was not going to mandate vaccines for their employees or for entrance into their institution. What I observed was how this institution and the individuals who were in charge of this institution, how they were publicly shamed, how they were publicly condemned. So this gives some, the blowback gives some insight into why there are individuals who do not stand up to be counted. So individuals can choose, and it's their right to choose to do this, to choose, you know what, I'm just not going to say anything. The reason I'm not going to say anything is because of A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, right? And so there is a level of retreat. And it's not a retreat because of cowardness, but is a retreat because they're looking at the pluses and minuses. They're looking at the positive and the negative trade-offs of saying something or carrying out a particular action. And they have determined for themselves, you know what? I don't know. So there can become a form of isolation, right? But that is an isolation in which that individual chose to do for him or herself. Then there's the type of isolation that I observe, where individuals who don't know that particular institution, may not have ever patronized that particular institution. These individuals have this social media courage, right? So they'll say something on social media, but I hazard to guess they wouldn't say it to that institutional owner to his or her face. So they'll make these claims, ad hominem attacks. They'll make these assertions, right? They'll get so personal. And the reason they get so personal is because they cannot come up with a rational, logical retort to the original proposition. But in doing so, as the crowd gets louder of you're this, you're bad this, well, you're a racist, or you're trying to kill people, you don't care about people, you're not a true Christian. See, I knew this about you, right? What that can do is then isolate that particular individual or that particular institution. And so in doing so, they are doing the work of that that entity that is seeking to press that idea. It's doing it for the common good. It's doing it for the public good. And so you can have individuals who believe that speaking shame, speaking condemnation to other individuals, they believe that shame and condemnation is a moral act because it's supporting the common and public good. When in fact, nothing could be further from the truth. So there is a necessity to speak up. There is a necessity for multiple perspectives to be offered. So here is my encouragement to the men and women, business owners out there, or individuals who feel hesitant to share their own story as to why they are choosing not to get vaccinated. I want to tell you, have courage. I want to tell you that if and when you exercise that courage to stand up and say, hey, you know what? This is why I'm not doing that particular act. Speak it boldly. Be precise. Understand you have to take responsibility for what you're saying. Speaking in such a way that you're not invoking or inciting any type of violent action, but speak your perspective, speak it boldly. I firmly believe as more and more of you do this, just like those who get up and tell their story as to why they're vaccinated, that there could be a shift that happens. But here's the other thing. As long as individuals remain silent, as long as individuals choose to say, you know what, I'm just going to walk and put my head down, there is the strong possibility that those things that we fear could happen a lot quicker. So have courage. Stand up. Speak your perspective boldly, compassionately, humbly, precisely. Use Facebook, use Twitter, use a blog post, use Instagram, use Pinterest, whatever. All right? But speak it in such a way, because when you do that, actually, you inspire other individuals. You give people a level of confidence that where they can say, hey, you know what? I'm not alone in this. That he or she did it. I can stand with him or her and say a similar thing. Yes, there is strength in numbers. There's confidence in numbers. There is power in numbers. Again, we were not made to be alone. We were not made to function alone. And so it is important for those of you who are unvaccinated, at some point, share your story. Share your story. If you know there's other people who are like you, maybe share your story together. But taking a lesson from that student at Arizona State University, or the anecdote I just told you about a friend, ladies and gentlemen, do not give people the power to shame you, condemn you, put you or make you feel in such a way as if you are the dregs of society. Ladies and gentlemen, you, just like them, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, both of you are image bearers of God. Both of you are unique and unrepeatable. Neither one of you are any better than the other. You that are vaccinated are no more better morally or ethically or socially than the unvaccinated. And you that are unvaccinated are no better morally, ethically, or socially than the vaccinated. We all stand on level ground. Your governments, whether at the city, state, or federal level, will try to make you feel like you're unequal, but you're not. There will be businesses and educational institutions and hospitals that are going to try to make you feel unequal, but you're not. Airlines, transportation type things are going to try to make you feel unequal, but you are not. Let me say this specifically again to the unvaccinated. You are just as equal in society as those who have chosen to take the vaccine. that is what I want to tell you. So have courage. Have courage, but also have humility. Have courage, have humility, but also be bold. And it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on the Humanity Matters show. I've been your host, Philip Fletcher. All right. So again, connect with me on any of the social media outlets and all of that good stuff. Boo, yes. If you want to find me on Patreon and become a supporter, I would greatly appreciate it. Just look up my name, Philip Fletcher, PhD. All right. Become a Patreon supporter. All right. September 27th, be looking out for the interview with Larry Sharp, veteran entrepreneur and former libertarian candidate for the governor of New York. That's going to be great. And then on October 2nd, catch Coho Game Night. You can find that event on the City of Hope Outreach Facebook page. They are not a sponsor of this show, but they're my nonprofit. I'm going to talk about them. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember to be loved, to be kind, to be generous, be courageous. If we remember to live in hope, we can do the impossible. Take care. God bless. Hey, if you found something of value, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find us on Facebook at Dr. Philip Fletcher. Find us on Twitter at Phil Fletcher. And as always, visit us on the website philipfletcher.org.